In part 1, we showed you the narco-submarine that carried 200 million euros of cocaine towards Britain. But we didn't tell you how it was built, where it was built, who built it, or how a criminal organization in the Colombian jungle managed to engineer a 20-meter submarine capable of crossing the Atlantic Ocean without being detected by military satellites, naval radar, or Coast Guard patrols. That's what this video is about. And I need to warn you. What you're about to see will fundamentally change how you think about organized crime. Because these aren't gangs anymore. They are corporations. With engineering departments, research and development divisions, supply chains that stretch across 4 continents. And some of those supply chains? They run straight through Britain. Before we go further, if you missed part 1, go watch it now. The link's in the description. This won't make sense without it. And if you want investigations like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. We're tracking something big, and you won't want to miss what's coming. Right. Let's meet the man they called the king. Oscar Moreno Ricardo. Also known as Cachano. Arrested in Medellin, January 2022. Extradition requested by the United States, Eastern District of Texas. For 2 decades, he built narco-submarines. Not 1. Not 5. Dozens. Each one capable of carrying 5 tons of cocaine. Each one worth $500,000 to build. Each one generating $200 million in cartel profits. He started as a speedboat driver in 2005. Running cocaine for the ELN guerrilla group and the Gulf Clan. Fast boats. High risk. Low pay. Then he realized something. If he could build the submarines instead of just piloting them, he'd make 10 times the money and never have to risk his life at sea. So he taught himself naval architecture. Studied boat construction. Recruited engineers who'd lost their jobs in legitimate shipyards. And he built his first submarine in 2018. It worked. It crossed the Pacific, delivered 3 tons of cocaine to Mexico, and made him a legend. The cartels started calling him El Rey de los Submersibles. The king of the submersibles. By 2021, he was building submarines that could carry 5 tons. 50 feet long. Sophisticated enough to evade military radar. Robust enough to survive storms in the Pacific. He operated out of Acandi, right on the Caribbean coast. Perfect location. Close to Panama. Easy access to international waters. Remote enough that authorities rarely patrolled. His shipyards were hidden beneath jungle canopy. Makeshift roofs made from palm leaves and tarps. Generators running 24 hours a day. Workers sleeping in dormitories he'd built specifically for construction crews. Some vessels are built in pieces and then reassembled in other locations under the jungle canopy, in camps outfitted with sleeping quarters for workers. That's how sophisticated this operation was. Multiple shipyards. Modular construction. If authorities found one location, the others kept operating. And Moreno Ricardo? He lived like a king. Villa on the coast. Multiple cars. Private security. He'd made millions. But here's the thing about being a legend in the narco world. Eventually, someone talks. Acting on intelligence from the Colombian police tracked Moreno Ricardo to Medellin. He wasn't in Acandi. He traveled inland, probably to negotiate a deal with the cartel. They arrested him in a hotel room. No resistance. No drama. He's currently awaiting extradition to the United States. The Eastern District of Texas has charged him with conspiracy to distribute cocaine and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. If convicted, he's facing life in prison. But here's what should terrify you. His arrest didn't stop submarine construction. It didn't even slow it down. Because Moreno Ricardo wasn't the only builder. He was just the most famous. Authorities seized 31 narco-submarines in 2021 in Colombia. Alone. That's just the ones they found. Open source estimates suggest 70 submarines are built in the Colombian jungle every single year. Moreno Ricardo might be in custody. But dozens of other engineers are still out there. Still building. Still innovating. And some of them are even more sophisticated than he ever was. November 2020. Choco, near the Cucurupi River. Colombian Navy raids a hidden yard and seizes a rare electric narco-submarine. Estimated $1.5 million to build. Silent running, minimal heat signature, and designed for multi-ton loads. Authorities and naval analysts call it one of the most sophisticated jungle-built craft to date. Not diesel. Electric. Silent. No engine noise. No exhaust fumes. No thermal signature for infrared detection. Electric propulsion meant it was virtually undetectable. No radar signature. No heat signature. No noise. This wasn't some jungle mechanic cobbling together a boat. This was advanced engineering. Naval architecture at a level that rivals military submarines. Who built it? We don't know. No arrests were made at the shipyard. The workers had fled before the raid. The submarine was incomplete, so it was seized and destroyed. But the expertise exists. And it's being refined. Fast forward to July 2025. Caribbean Sea, off the coast of Colombia. The Colombian Navy intercepts something they've never seen before. An unmanned semi-submersible vessel. The first ever discovered in South American waters. No crew. No humans on board. Just cocaine and a computer. The Navy's photos show an unmanned semi-submersible with an antenna consistent with Starlink. Open-source analysts assessed it enabled remote tracking and course updates in real time. The vessel was programmed to follow GPS coordinates. Remote operators could monitor its progress, adjust its course, and even command it to surface or submerge. No risk to human life. No crew to interrogate if caught. Just a vessel that follows its programming and delivers its cargo. When the Navy boarded it, they found something else. Boarding photos circulated in defense media report paperwork in Russian among technical material. Not proof of state support, but suggestive of where some design know-how might originate. After the Cold War, thousands of Soviet submarine engineers found themselves unemployed. Naval architects who'd spent decades designing nuclear submarines for the USSR suddenly had no jobs. Some went to work for civilian industries. Some retired. And some? They took very lucrative contracts in South America. We can't prove direct involvement. But the technology speaks for itself. Unmanned submarines with satellite internet and electric propulsion don't get built by jungle mechanics. They get built by trained engineers with decades of experience. And someone's paying them very well. 9 to 9:15. If this is making you angry, it should. Hit the like button. Share this video. People need to understand how deep this goes. And stick around, because what I'm about to tell you next will genuinely shock you. Now let's talk about the people who supply the materials. Because you can't build a submarine with nothing. You need steel, fiberglass, marine engines, batteries, GPS systems, welding equipment, generators. And someone's selling it to them. In 2024 to 2025, U.S. prosecutors won 18 years 8 months and nearly 19 years in separate precursor broker cases tied to meth and fentanyl supply chains, with filings tallying billions of potential dose equivalents. These weren't cartel members. They were brokers exploiting legal supply lines. They ran legitimate chemical supply companies. Imported and sold industrial chemicals for manufacturing, agriculture, construction. Completely legal businesses. Except they were also supplying precursor chemicals to Mexican cartels. Chemicals used to produce fentanyl and methamphetamine. They weren't cartel members. They didn't smuggle drugs. They just sold chemicals. But they knew exactly who was buying them. And they kept selling anyway. Because the profit margins were astronomical. When authorities finally arrested them, they found records showing they'd made tens of millions of dollars. They got nearly 19 years. But here's the thing. That's precursor chemicals for drug manufacturing. Those cases got attention because fentanyl is killing thousands of people. But what about the materials for building submarines? Steel? Legal. Fiberglass? Legal. Marine engines? Legal. GPS systems? Legal. None of it's illegal to sell. So nobody gets prosecuted. In 2018 to 2021, Rodrigo Pineda Torres, known as Gordo, who ran a legitimate boat business, admitted helping convert vessels for cocaine runs. He pleaded guilty in U.S. court and received 11 years 3 months. It proves the point. Some repair shops are part of the build chain. That's how this works. The builders get arrested sometimes. The smugglers get arrested often. But the suppliers? They almost never face consequences. And whilst we can't name specific British companies involved, the materials are coming from somewhere. Britain is one of the world's largest exporters of marine equipment, industrial resins, and navigation systems. When a shell company in Panama orders 40 marine diesel engines, someone in the supply chain knows what's happening. When a Colombian construction firm orders 10 tons of fiberglass resin to be delivered to a jungle location with no registered address, someone knows. But they process the order anyway. Because it's profitable. And because proving intent is almost impossible. Let's talk about the crews. The men who actually pilot these submarines across the ocean. Because even if the submarines are built by engineers, someone still has to sail them. In U.S. cases announced in 2021, 6 Colombian nationals admitted roles in dispatching self-propelled semi-submersibles, known as narco-subs, from Colombia toward Mexico, linked to cartel distribution. They faced up to life. Cooperation produced 8 to 15-year outcomes in some instances. They weren't just crews. They were organizers. Logistics coordinators. They recruited pilots, arranged routes, negotiated payments. Over the course of 3 years, they successfully transported approximately 19,000 pounds of cocaine. That's nearly 9 tons. 8 to 15 years for helping move 9 tons of cocaine. Meanwhile, Peter Williams from Cornwall got 16 years for 18 million pounds worth. The economics don't make sense unless you understand the scale. The 6 Colombians moved 9 tons. That's worth approximately 270 million pounds. Even with an 8-year sentence, they probably made 2 or 3 million each. That's 350,000 pounds a year. In prison. Still wealthier than most people will ever be. That's why the submarines keep coming. Because even if you get caught, even if you go to prison, you've still made generational wealth. Your family's set for life. Unless the cartel kills them for your failure. Which they might. So what's the solution? Honestly? There isn't one. You can't stop the submarines being built. The expertise exists. The materials are legal. The jungle shipyards are impossible to find. You can't patrol the entire ocean. It's too big. The routes are too varied. You can't prosecute the suppliers. Proving intent is almost impossible when the products are legal. The only real solution is reducing demand. But cocaine use in Britain has increased by 30% since 2020. More people. More often. Higher quantities. Which means more submarines. More innovation. More deaths. And the cartels are evolving faster than law enforcement. Oscar Moreno Ricardo, the king of the submersibles, is in custody. But his students are still out there. Building electric submarines. Building unmanned submarines. Building submarines that will make his designs look primitive. Open source estimates often cite 10 to 15% interdiction rates. That means 85 to 90% get through. 5 years ago, we'd never heard of narco-submarines. Now they are commonplace. What's next? Submarines that deliver directly to British shores. No fishing boats. No rendezvous. Just a vessel that beaches itself on a remote Scottish island, offloads, and sinks. Submarines carrying fentanyl instead of cocaine. 50 kilos of fentanyl has the same street value as 5 tons of cocaine. Submarines that don't surface at all. Fully submersible vessels that can dive to 100 meters and stay down for days. It's not science fiction. The technology exists. And someone's already building it. So where are they now? Oscar Moreno Ricardo? Awaiting extradition to the United States. Facing life in prison. The 6 Colombian logistics coordinators? U.S. federal prisons. Between 8 and 15 years each. Rodrigo Pineda Torres, the boat modifier? 11 years 3 months in U.S. federal prison. The chemical brokers who supplied precursor chemicals? 18 to 19 years in U.S. federal prisons. The builders of the electric submarine? Never caught. Still out there. The operators of the unmanned Starlink submarine? Unknown. No arrests made. And tomorrow morning, somewhere in the Colombian jungle, another submarine will be launched. It'll take 30 days to cross the Atlantic. It'll surface off the coast of Ireland, Scotland, or Cornwall. It'll offload 6 tons of cocaine. And the cycle continues. If you've watched both parts of this investigation, you now know more about narco-submarines than 99% of people. You know who builds them, how they are built, what they cost, how sophisticated they are, and why they are almost impossible to stop. So what do you do with that information? Share it. Make sure other people understand what's happening. And subscribe. Because part 3 is coming. We're going to show you exactly where that cocaine goes once it reaches Britain. The distribution networks. The county lines operations. The violence. The deaths. Hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss it. Comment below. Did you know Oscar Moreno Ricardo existed? Did you know there was a king of the submersibles building submarines for cartels? Because I didn't. Not until I started researching this. One more thing. Oscar Moreno Ricardo built submarines for 2 decades. He made millions. Lived like a king. Never went to prison. Until 2022. 20 years of building submarines that carried hundreds of tons of cocaine into the United States and Europe. How many lives were destroyed by the drugs he helped transport? Tens of thousands? Hundreds of thousands? We'll never know. But he's finally in custody. Facing life in prison. And the worst part? The submarines he built are still out there. Still operating. Still crossing oceans. Because the king is gone. But his empire remains. Stay aware. Stay safe. And remember, every product has a supply chain. Even the illegal ones.